Now, it might sound like that I have a strong willpower when I say that I quit smoking and I quit drinking alcohol like 2 years ago. Can't even believe it was exactly July 19th, 2018. But the experience that I had was quite the contrary, because if I probably didn't quit, I probably wouldn't even be alive today. And that is the story that I wanted to share with you in this video. And I also wanted to share with you all the positive growth I've experienced since I quit smoking and drinking. So if you're interested, stay tuned and let's begin. Welcome back to this video. My name is Rav and I help people empower themselves. And if you're new to this channel, I share videos relating to personal development and something related to spirituality too, because I've been studying this for past 5-6 years now in hopes to share this with people who are in need someday. Also to help myself, to be honest. I wanted to talk about being sober in this video because I feel like a lot of people struggle with this, and sometimes people even don't really pay attention to their drinking and smoking habits, but it starts to take toll on you, and sometimes it just sucks in all the positive aspects of your personality out from your life. And that's exactly what I faced. If we had to go back to my personal history on how I started using like alcohol, like it was when I was really young, when I was probably like 12-13 years old. And at that time I was really fascinated by rock and roll music, and I would look up to musicians. I don't want to name them, to be honest, because I still love them, but at the same time, most of my idols who I used to almost worship and wanted to become when I was growing up, they're pretty much either dead or they're just like living a really miserable lifestyle right now. And you hear about that in the news. I mean, you get the point, because I don't want to badmouth on artists who I grew up listening to, and they were my heroes. I started drinking when I was really young. I started getting into use of drugs, and I often surrounded myself with people. In fact, I always surrounded myself with people who were always into drinking and playing music, and like that was just a way of life. So it took me a while to actually realize that this kind of lifestyle is not healthy. And I guess that your mom tells you about it, and everybody in your society tells you about it, I guess. But that just didn't sink into my mind, because in my mind I felt like I was right, and my group was right, who were like into rock and roll and metal music and things like that. And everybody else who would not understand us at any level, they were just like completely wrong, So that was the kind of mindset that I grew up with. But the thing was that for me it was like a real experience, because I was also a musician, because that's all I wanted to do when I was growing up, and I wanted to become like a rock and roller. And for me, in order to blend it with all these other musicians, I felt like I had to do alcohol, I had to smoke. Even years after that, like when I was trying to form my band when I was probably like in my mid-20s, I would still be, my band members, they're like pretty great, by the way, I would still be attracting people who would be into that kind of like lifestyle of just like partying and just like playing guitars, hanging out and boozing a lot, and just binge drinking so much that you just like just pass out pretty much, and you pass out to sleep. Otherwise you can't even probably go to sleep, because you're so used to drinking that way. I never felt like I was alcoholic, but at the same time, after I quit everything else, like the hard drugs and everything, the only thing that remained was drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. That's all that remained. And I didn't think it was a problem, to be honest, because I wasn't doing it so much. But it started to become a problem once I was hanging out with people who were doing it a lot, and I just lost myself again. And mind you, about this time I was already learning about spirituality, personal development, and I knew like the power of how your mind, the clarity of mind is important, and how you have to have like great energy in order to achieve the things that you want. So I was staying productive and I was doing great, but at the same time I knew inside of myself that I wasn't able to give my 100% because I was losing a lot of energy just like by smoking cigarettes and doing alcohol. And this awareness became even more clear when I did LSD for the first time. Now I don't want to promote any kinds of like drugs or anything through this video, but I'm just sharing an honest experience with you because someone else commented in one of my last videos that, you know, just I'm trying to like become like one of the cult leaders who preaches about psychedelics, but that's not my goal here in this video. I'm just trying to be as honest as I can, because when I did LSD for the first time, I saw the kinds of bad habits that I had in my life, which were creating a lot of like harmful reactions, which was pretty much deteriorating my body. And I talked about porn in the last video. The other thing was definitely alcohol and smoking cigarettes. And after that, every time I took a sip of alcohol or every time I puffed a cigarette, I felt tremendously guilty. And that's even worse than just, you know, drinking and just passing out and having fun, right? So I'm not having here fun right here, but I'm just trying to blend in with my friends. But what I'm doing is I'm hurting myself more with that guilt that comes on later on with that hangover. Now I don't want to name call on anybody, but I was living with somebody at the time who was also like really close in everything that I did in my life, you know, with bands and other things. And he was a great friend, to be honest, and he didn't have any bad intentions, but he had this really bad habit of just overindulging and stuff. And in the beginning when we were living together, like we had this no alcohol inside of the home policy when there were no people around. But what happened was I was working on a music project at that time. Right after it was done, it was time to kind of release, so there were like more people coming to hanging out in our places, and I started going out more. So I started to get back into the trap of drinking and smoking again. I tend to be very ambitious at times when I'm working on projects because I'm always looking up to something new in the future, and that's how I've always had this drive to do something you know, like something worthwhile, which at least I feel like is worthwhile for me, right? So there came a point in my life where I was done with all the projects that I had. I was working on a music video, and that was the last project that I ever was thinking on my mind, and I felt like there was no future. Also, I had gotten into car wreck before that, and I had a lot of other different like personal issues going on at the time. So the music video was supposed to release in July 19th, and around the beginning of July I started becoming really depressed, and it just felt so unnatural to me because I never felt that sad and pathetic before. And one day I was just sitting with my friend and we were just talking about different stuff, you know, and we were having some conflicts like sometimes, and I remember we were fighting a lot too, you know, just because like I wasn't really myself at that time, to be honest. But one day when I told him that, man, I feel so depressed, I feel like after this project is over I'm gonna die, like he just brushed it away as if I didn't mean anything, you know. And the crazy part was I was crying when I said that, and I was dead serious. And when like he just brushed it off like it was nothing, it hurt me a lot, you know. And I felt like I was just alone because, you know, I mean I knew that I had love from a lot of other people, even in my community. But when people closest to you and like the friends you can really count on just kind of try to dissuade your calls or just try to brush you off like, you know, you're nobody, you know, no big deal or things like that, especially during these times when you're depressed, man, it starts to take toll on you. And I started feeling more and more dark inside of me, and I had nobody to share. When we are suffering from depression, or when anyone is suffering from depression, just you feel scared to share with someone because you feel like you're gonna get judged, that was like one of the biggest problems that I was having. So I started drinking a lot after that, and I started to kind of like smoke a lot too, because there had been different points in my life when I had actually tried to quit and failed miserably. So that guilt factor is always there, right? So I talked about that before. So I always felt guilty about that. I felt like after this project, that music video that I was talking about was gonna be over, I felt like there was no future for me. So I basically feel like I was gonna die, and I didn't know how. I'm sorry if you guys don't want to hear this, but I feel like this is something that I need to do if I have to give you a perspective of my struggles and how I got over drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. And that night, July 19th, we had a music video release party, because we wanted to kind of make it kind of worthwhile, at least sharing it with our friends and family. And that's the thing, I've always had like support from my friends and family all the time, but sometimes when you're depressed, you just can't see it. So the day of the party, I was determined to not drink at all. But after my first drink, I don't remember how much I drank, man. And I had a big argument with the same friend I was talking about, and I definitely didn't feel good about that as well. So the next morning when I wake up with a really terrible hangover, and this huge guilt and shame surrounding my entire being, and I just felt so worthless. And it wasn't even me, to be honest. It felt like my mind just split into two halves. One is just observing, the other one is pretty much criticizing and bashing me for all the mistakes that I've made throughout my life, since my childhood till right now. And it got to a point where it made me believe that my life was just not worth it. And I feel like if I wasn't alive, that would be so much better for not just, well, I wouldn't be here obviously, but everyone in my family and friends. And I just feel like I needed to end my life, or at least that's what the voice started saying. So long story short, after contemplating suicide, almost tried to make an attempt, but something clicked inside of me when I kind of remembered Tony Robbins say that I've never lost anyone in like cases of suicide. So what I did was I kind of mustered up courage to dial the 1-800 suicide hotline, and I talked to somebody who kind of gave me a perspective, and he was able to talk me out of it. And I definitely made it clear that I needed help, and that's exactly what I did. And he told me that one of my biggest problems that I've had in the the near past was that I was trying to be a perfectionist in everything that I did, and unless I would be able to just see things for what they are and sometimes be able to let go, I wouldn't be living a happy life, and kind of gave me a perspective. But I still was broken, I'm pretty sure he did talk me out of it at that exact moment, but I was pretty much broken, I didn't know what to do. So I decided to reach out to my sister, because she's always been like one of my biggest inspirations in my life. She's the one who kind of turned me into like meditation, yoga, and all these like ancient Eastern things that I practice today, like the Kriya Yoga from Art of Living. So I gave a call, and I just wanted to have like a casual conversation, to be honest, but I just couldn't stop cracking up. I just started crying. So she bought me tickets for the very next day, and she lived in a different state. Well, I live in Maryland, she lives in Texas. So the next day I was in Texas. I decided to quit when I was in Texas, but the thing is that like when I was there, I wasn't like totally changed. It took me some time because I stayed there for about a week after that, I remember like one day we were just like sitting out in the patio area, which was like 6 stories high, so this is like an opening outside of the apartment space, you know. And I still wasn't able to trust myself because I feel like a part of me wants to jump out of this just because it feels so worthless. It feels like it doesn't deserve any form of life. And it was scary, man. It was scary. I mean, I've never been through that kind of like suicidal thoughts and phases before, you know, so it was very scary for me. So when I was in Texas, I started doing some yoga with my sister, and that definitely made me feel very much alive. And you know, just having conversation with her and my brother-in-law and also like one of her friends, it just gave me an insight on how I was being stuck there wasn't very necessary. In fact, if I wanted to, I could just move out to a new place, get out of that friendship, and I had the liberty to even, you know, stop making music if that's what I didn't enjoy anymore, you know, because making music is one thing, but the lifestyle that I was creating out of it, that was the thing that's toxic, you know. So with that insight, it just made my mind more clear, and it was almost like a snap, and I made a snap decision right then and there, and I decided to go back to Maryland, the place where I was staying at. So I moved out from there. I moved out to the city area where I'd be able to meet more new people, like-minded people. So that's exactly what I did. And in the beginning, I had no cravings, but my only fear was I just wouldn't be able to refuse my friends, because, you know, it's not that they're bad or they're wrong or anything like that. It's just the way we do it in our community or society that we like to offer our friends. And even if they don't want to drink, we kind of like almost convince them to do that, you know. And I have a lot of friends who are like that, to be honest, you know, and I love them, but at the same time I don't think it's very helpful, you know. So one thing, if I have to give you like a really solid thing that you can apply into your own life, which can help you get out of this, is change the way you make your statement. Because I tried quitting to drink and smoke a lot of times before, you know, but it would just try, and I would say to my friends, if they offered me, I'm trying to quit, or I don't want to drink, things like that, you know. But it sounds very weak in that sense. But if you were to say that I don't drink, now that's a different statement, and that's what worked for me. And I got this from the book called How to Say When You Talk to Yourself. I forgot the name of the writer, but that book is all about like how the language that you use with yourself affects the way you communicate with the world and the way you react and all the behaviors that are determined by it. So that was very powerful. So after that, when I started going to pubs, I would just tell to my friends, like old friends too, that I don't drink and I don't smoke. And it would throw them off because they had this memory of us doing stuff together, like drinking, partying, smoking. But all of a sudden, when I say that I don't drink, it kind of throws them off because they kind of get confused, like, you know, is he lying? But we've drank together numerous times before. But it's just the way you make that statement. It's not like trying. It's not saying that I don't want to. It's not that you're trying to quit. But when you say that you don't do it, it just is a part of who you are. And nobody is gonna be able to force you after that anymore, you know. So if there's a habit that you want to stop, don't think of it in a way where you're just trying to do it. Just say that you don't do it anymore, because that statement is more in the form of identity, a part of who you are, not in the part of what you're trying to do, you know. So that is a very strong statement. Now I know this has been a very long story for you guys. Now I'm gonna talk about the benefits that I've experienced after I quit smoking and drinking. Now it's totally my own experience, and I'm not claiming that this happens to other people, but it might be relatable. So the first thing was my energy level went up the roof. Because before that I was living in this like really unconscious patterns, and I was losing a lot of energy by just drinking and smoking, and I would wonder why I would always feel tired throughout the entire day. And it wasn't just because of I quit smoking or drinking, but it was also because of the habits that I picked up that I was talking about, right? My yoga practices, my meditation practices, those definitely gave me a lot of energy. Another great thing was I started becoming more focused on what I was doing. Before that, I was failing miserably in everything that I was doing. Like whether it be music, and I also had another company at that time. I just felt so bad about it all the time, yet I couldn't do anything about it. But once my focus was clear, after I quit smoking and drinking, I was able to just focus on the things that I would be able to get the most out of, which happened to be photography for me. And that's when I started doing photography more seriously, and I was very much passionate and dedicated towards it. This is probably like one of the best periods of my life when it comes to like finances or even like relationships, how I relate to others and that kind of things. Now those things were also the things that I was really struggling with before that, you know, and I'm so proud of myself for doing that, you know, and I don't say this like lightly. I'm really proud of myself for doing this, because I never thought I could improve, you know. That was just this negative mindset that I had, which kept me stuck in those negative patterns of drinking, partying, smoking. It's not to say that I'm against it, to be honest. I still have friends who do it socially. I mean, I still have friends who binge drink sometimes, but I don't judge them. I'm not making this video to judge anybody, but you know, I'm just trying to present my own perspective. So those are the things that I really wanted to share with you in this video. I know it went on for too long compared to my other videos, but I also wanted to have this in a more honest conversation kind of way. If you start to see the harm that alcohol and smoking and other drugs do in your daily life, you'll start to become more aware of it, and you're just gonna become more conscious every time you do it, you know. And that's how it started for me. Although looking back in hindsight, I feel like I shouldn't have been so guilty, man. I wish I could have taken it lightly sometimes, you know, when I was with friends, and just be able to enjoy the moment, you know. And with that being said, guys, let's end this video right here. I know that I haven't been able to post videos more often like I did a few months back, but I'm in the process of moving into a new place, and I want to actually set up a more solid location when I'm there, and I'm gonna be making videos more often. I'm gonna be making more contents, and I pretty much decided to dedicate my life in this area, personal development and just personal empowerment in general, whether it be through just spirituality or just more scientific practices. Alright, I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, feel free to do so right now, and also give that thumbs up so you'll get more videos like these in the feed. Alright, I want to wish you all the very best. Goodbye and namaste.